growing up, I always questioned myself. I always thought so deeply and philosophically when it came to things. I always tried to find the meaning in the smallest of things. And everyday people will question is, why are you thinking so hard? Why are you taking things so seriously? Why is it when we have a conversation, you always want to make it deep, or you always want to make it have a meaning? Why can't you learn to enjoy or not be so complicated? I always felt like an outcast when it came to my mind because I never could get anyone to understand how I felt. I could never find the right words to explain what was going on with me internally. And I felt like because of that, I constantly had to explain things to people multiple times or in long, depth lectures for them to understand half of what I was feeling. And because of that, I always felt unseen and weird in a way. I always felt like something was wrong with me because I couldn't get somebody to understand the thought that was in my mind. And then when I would go to say it out loud and to express it, I would realize how it would come off as crazy or come off as weird. And then I would stop mid-sentence and retract my statement because I knew that what made sense to me would not make sense to that other person. And so it led me into a life of constantly holding things in and just letting them collect and build in my mind and make me become an overthinker. And so every time I was in a situation with somebody, or I met somebody new, or something new happened to me, a change in my life, I would sit there and overanalyze every little thing and try to find the wrong subconsciously in the things that didn't even happen yet. And so when I would get internally hurt from the things that I sat there and thought about, I would go to explain to somebody that how something that didn't happen yet is weighing on me. And because I felt this way, I wanted to dive deeper and find out, why is it that I feel so heavily when it comes to things? Why is it that when it comes to certain things, I think so much and I want to get to the root of something, or I can't get something out of my head unless I know like the exact ins and outs of it. And so after, months and months of searching, I found out that it could be related to me being an empath and how I feel so much and feel so deeply when it comes to scenarios. But even though I had the answer to my problem, my problems didn't go away. And that's what bothered me, because I would still go on for years and years and years of trying to explain to people how I feel and why I feel this way, and that I'm an overthinker, and that I want you to know that even though you're not doing anything to me, I'm feeling like something's going to happen. I self-sabotage myself. I don't allow myself to love. I can't allow myself to open up without the fear of that I will be heartbroken, or that somebody will use me or take advantage of me. And because of that, I shut down and no one understands. And I sit in my mind with all these thoughts and all these scenarios, potential scenarios, real scenarios, non-existent scenarios, and thinking, what would happen if I went through that? Or can I handle that when it happens, or if it ever happens? And it left me being alone, because I would push people away, or people will walk away, because in a way I became too difficult. And I never looked at anybody or was upset with anybody that ever left me, because I understood that how I felt inside made no sense to anybody in the world. And even for those that tried to sit down and understand, I just couldn't. I don't know if you ever been in a situation where no matter how much you try to explain something to somebody, they don't get it. And so you start to internally feel like you're a burden or you're bothering them, or you start to feel stupid because you're not explaining it correctly, or they can't understand what you're going through. So there's this irritation that happens inside that it's like, I just don't even want to talk about it anymore. And then you start to think like, I had the courage to let you know that I was going through this, and you having to tell me to constantly repeat myself or to explain myself in different ways just makes me not want to talk. And I know I'm not the only person that feels this way. I know there's many people that, regardless of what scale it's on or what area it's in, sometimes it's just hard to let people know what you truly feel, and how you feel, and what your intentions are. And that is hard to communicate, and you're not trying to come off as difficult or complicated, but you just kind of want that one person to come into your life and just say, hey, I understand you. It's that yearning of, God, I'm so tired of constantly trying to retell my story in 500 ways so one person can be like, oh, I get it. It's like, I just kind of want to meet that person where it's just like, no, I got you. And I completely feel what you're feeling, and the feelings you're feeling are valid, and the ideas you have is completely understandable, even though that they might not be rational, but you feel that way. And a lot of people don't meet people in their lifetime where they can say they truly understand their counterpart or that person. So many of us go our lives and constantly search for that understanding and that acceptance and that finding. And sometimes you find it in multiple places, and sometimes you don't find it at all. But it's hard when people just don't understand, because it's this loneliness that sits inside of you that's like, why can't I communicate properly? Why can't I let someone truly understand what's going on inside of me? Or why can't I not feel this way and be quote unquote normal when it comes to my thinking or rationalizing? It kind of makes you want to self-loathe in a way, because it's just like, I just wish I can look at somebody and say something and it could just be that. It doesn't have to be any questioning or why or what. It's just like, yeah, I get it. Sometimes just knowing that I understand myself and knowing that working it out personally still help more than having to go to different people's and having to tell the same story over and over again. Because you don't ever want to feel crazy. You don't ever want to feel like you can't go to anybody. But I want you to know that even though the ones around you or the people you go to might not get it, just know that in some way, shape, or form, your mind rationalized it in some way. And if you can think of it, and if you can understand it within yourself, there is a way for you to put it into words for someone else. And if you're not ready to do that, you can always just try to keep it within and work through your problems mentally. Don't feel alone because you can't communicate. Sometimes people just don't understand, and that's life, and it's nothing to get upset about or mad about. It's just different frequencies, different day, different topic.